What's going on, guys? Alpha the Wizard back at it with another video. Today we're going to be continuing the meta history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And in today's episode, we're going to be covering Zombies with Card of Safe Return from 2007. This deck became a thing. The ban list happened in September, and Perfect Circle just dominated the format, and most people were playing variants of Perfect Circle with the Destiny Hero engine, with Monarchs and Treeborn Frog. However, when Illblood came out shortly after the ban list, this deck rose to popularity tremendously. However, Perfect Circle was proving to be the better deck of the format, but this zombie build consistently topped events and in a decent quantities too. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop right into the profile. I'm just gonna go ahead and cover the zombies. So starting things off, they did play the boss, Ryukoki. This card was just a good beater that you could summon off Pyramid Turtle, which we will see in the profile. Now, Ryukaki, it's 2400, so it can crash with a Monarch, and it's also a zombie, so it definitely inherently synergizes with the strategy. So aside from that, we're getting to the nitty gritty now. We play 3 Zombie Master, because we are playing Card of Safe Return. So Zombie Master is literally just going to net us so much advantage, and if we have 2 Card of Safe Returns on the field, this is going to do a lot for us. And then we have Illblood. This card was the new addition, which honestly kind of made this deck really good, because you could summon this card out with Pyramid Turtle, and then the options you have from there are limitless, because you can just resummon Illblood because it's a Gemini, and then use its effect to special summon another zombie. So Illblood was really powerful this format. Okay, so now we have all those. These are like the pretty standard zombies to start with. And then of course we gotta have the recruiter, Pyramid Turtle. So Pyramid Turtle was really good in this deck because you could summon Illblood, you could summon Ryukaki, pretty much any zombie from your deck with 1500 or 2000 or less defense. So Pyramid Turtle proved to be really good in this strategy. And since the format was more balanced and controlled, since a lot of the, a lot of power cards are gone and Diamond Dude Turbo got kind of cut down in size, and Perfect Circle was a set pass deck, and that was identified as the best deck of this format. So Pyramid Turtle was perfectly fine in this deck. But in order to supplement the Pyramid Turtle, we also play Giant Rat, because Giant Rat can get us to a Pyramid Turtle. Pyramid Turtle can just either summon itself, or you could summon any other zombie. So Giant Rat gets us to our Pyramid Turtle faster and thins our deck, so we can see our Card of Safe Returns faster as well. But then it wouldn't be a zombie deck if we didn't play Spirit Reaper. Now, Pyramid Turtle being able to get Spirit Reaper and then clear your opponent's board with like a Monarch, and then attacking with Spirit Reaper comes up quite often. You will find in this format that Spirit Reaper is really good, because there's a lot of times it attacks directly and they can't really stop it, to be quite honest with you. So that's really it for like all the zombies that you would want to play in this deck. Now, Illblood is definitely the boss, as well as Ryukaki. But yeah, so aside from those ones, we do play 2 copies of Ryza the Storm Monarch, just because Ryza is too good not to play. We are summoning monsters very easy in this deck, so there's really no reason not to play Ryza, especially because the perfect counter to Perfect Circle is, Ryzaing them back. So yeah, we play 2 of those, and then we do play 1 Jinzo, because when the format slows down, Jinzo just gets infinitely better, because now we're going to be having to deal with a lot more back row. So Jinzo is really good at, dealing with the power traps, because we still have Mirror Force and Torrential Tribute in the format. And then in addition to Jinzo, we do play 2 copies of Cyber Dragon. 2 copies of Cyber Dragon is pretty standard for like this era of Yu-Gi-Oh! You don't really see a lot of lists maxing out on this. But, that's totally fine because it's not always a card you want to draw two of, even though it's decent at best, but you want to see your combo pieces. So two Cyber Dragon is perfectly fine. If we were to reflect on this format in current modern day, a lot of people would probably cut Cyber Dragon altogether or maybe side deck it. Now on for the other monsters that aren't like big monsters or zombies, we do play a singular copy of Breaker. Breaker is in almost every profile from decks from maybe 2005 all the way to like 2009. So Breaker just gets better and better over time. And with this being a trade format and it's very balanced, Breaker trades very, very well. And then we do play a single copy of Sangan. Sangan can help facilitate our engine. We can search Pyramid Turtle, Spirit Reaper, whatever the case may be, just to kind of get things rolling a little bit. And we also play a singular copy of Card Trooper. Card Trooper's still really good, and it's even more so better in this deck because we might mill a zombie. Getting a zombie in the graveyard is really good because we're playing cards like Book of Life and Zombie Master that, just having those zombies in the grave already, it might come up to be very, very useful. And we do also play a single copy of Morphing Jar. Morphing Jar is good in this deck specifically because you want to be able to get zombies in your grave, discarding your hand, and then just drawing into like your card of safer turns and power spells and things of that nature. And then because it's at 1, we do play a single copy of Magician of Faith. Now, Faith is really good in this deck also because, we're playing cards like Book of Life, card of safer turn. So we're able to recycle these cards essentially. So yeah, definitely Faith serves like a very, very good purpose, but a rather small one because we don't necessarily rely on it. But yeah, so that's really it for those monsters in the deck. Now moving on to the spell cards, we are choosing to play 3 copies of Book of Life. So we're trying to get zombies in our graveyard as fast as possible. So that's going to make Book of Life live, like at least probably 90% of the time. But in addition to Book of Life, we have Card of Safer Turn. Now, this card is one of the most broken cards of all time. Just because of simple fact, we're doing a lot of graveyard reviving, and every time we revive a card from the graveyard, we draw a card. So there might be instances when you get things rolling, and you can draw almost infinite cards from your deck, or at least end with a handful of like 7 or 8 cards. But yes, so with Card of Safer Turn, we are playing 3 copies. You definitely want to max out on this because this card alone is just meta warping, to be quite honest. And this card did get limited before it eventually got banned in formats to come. And next we have Creature Swap. Creature Swap is especially good in the zombie deck because we're playing a lot of recruiters like Pyramid Turtle, Giant Rat, things of that nature. So Creature Swap just gives us extra value, being able to attack into our own Pyramid Turtle and summon a Ryukaki from deck. It's really, really strong. And then of course we got to play some of the staples of the time since a lot of them got banned. Like Snatch Steal, we still have to play the standard like Mystical Space Typhoon. We definitely have to play the Heavy Storm. Of course, the Premature Burial is better in this deck also because of Card of Safer Turn. And then Brain Control is a pretty standard card around this time, also limited to 1. But yeah, Brain Control is really powerful, just being able to out one of their monsters really easy. And then since this is a pretty set heavy format because of Perfect Circle being really popular, and there's like maybe give or take some burn decks in the format, we do play a single copy of Nobleman of Crossout just because we want to be able to deal with those annoying nuisances like Gravekeeper Spy, things like that that might be kind of hard to get over. And then also, speaking of those cards, we do play Smashing Ground. We play Smashing Ground to deal with exactly that. Sometimes this deck has trouble getting over, like, maybe wall cards like Spy or Reaper. So that's why Smashing Ground comes in handy. Plus, we're going to be drawing a lot of cards. And for the same purpose, we also play a single copy of Hammershot. Hammershot has its utilities as well. The particular list that I'm referencing from, I have made some of my own changes. However, I did like the idea of running Hammershot too, because you can destroy a face-up attack position monster with the highest attack. So that kind of puts your opponent in a corner if you both have a big monster, but theirs is stronger. Smashing Ground is debatable, better, but this can come up in instances where Smashing Ground wouldn't be good. It's not very often, but Hammershot is a good utility card. Okay, so now we have the trap cards. We still play the blowout cards that still exist. We play a Mirror Force. You kind of have to play this card. Mirror Force is just a blowout in slower formats, and they're forced to play awkwardly because they have to play around Mirror Force, Heavy Storm, and then of course Torrential Tribute. You know, these cards are just mandatory in old formats. I'm sure you can all see why, because they are just blowouts. But then also this deck did play a single copy of Call the Haunted, simply just because, you know, we're doing a lot of reviving from the graveyard. This card inherently synergizes with Card of Safe Return. And then of course, this deck in particular needed a little bit more back row hate. Not back row, but monster removal. So we play Sakuretsu Armor, which is, you know, a pretty safe call, only one copy, because we just want to have like our Mirror Force and Sakuretsu to deal with the monsters attacking. We don't really need too much else, just because we want to see our engine more than these, but we gotta have defensive cards this format. But we also have trouble with back row removal, so it's pretty important to main more ways to out specific things. So Dust Tornado can definitely do that. This deck can get shut down pretty easy by Wing Blast and set back, and your opponent can just get really far ahead. So we do play the Dust Tornado for that reason. So we can out the Wing Blast. That's the card that we're most worried about. And of course, cards like Crush Card and all the other blowout traps. But speaking of that card, we do play Crush Card Virus. As I mentioned in the last video, this card was not easily accessible, so only like the pro players that may have won Crush Card had it back in the day, definitely giving them an advantage over the competition. However, if you played Crush Card Virus, yeah, usually it synergized with most decks back then. So Zombies and Perfect Circle were the only two big decks at this time, the only two decks that would consistently top. There were, give or take, some burn strategies that might have squeezed in the top cut. However, most of the top decks were playing this card, and probably part of the reason why a lot of the pros back in the day consistently topped, because they had access to it. So not only were they good players, but they also had this broken card. But yeah, so that really does it for the profile. Tell me what you think about like the Illblood Zombies. You know, this is a really interesting deck, and if you want to build it, this is a good reference build for you to start with. So yeah, that's it for this episode of Meta History of Yu-Gi-Oh! Thank you all for tuning in, and this is Alpha the Wizard signing out.